Good afternoon. I'm happy for all of you that are here, and glad to continue. I hope I didn't lose anyone on the overview of what I want to present. And since I see some faces that I haven't seen yet, I will do a short review so that everyone gets what is needed to understand. So it's about the human being. It's about how we are made and how we function. Since all human beings are one species, they all must function by law the same. And I try to explain to you that there is nothing on this earth that does not function according to a law. If there is no law, there is no function. Everything from the smallest atom to the most complicated being that the human being is, including the computers and phones, they just function according to a law that is never changeable. And to know how the human being functions, you need to know the law that governs this functioning. Our most difficult situation in medicine is that we have no overview of the human being. We have a lot of details that we can say, oh, the liver functions like that, the heart functions like that. But how do they function together? How are they controlled? People come to me, and I want to maybe introduce you with one case that is very interesting. And it was a 20-year-old young boy, and he had an interesting disease. He came to me with a parotid infection on both sides, the gland, the parotid gland. And if this is the man, he has, of course, more than a head. So he had a parotid gland. This is the left side, this is the right side. The left side of the parotid gland was more swollen than the right side. So he came with this disease to me. Now, of course, I can say that's an infection and can give him some antibiotics or whatever to make that back, a prescription. And but I'm not so much into therapy as I am into know the cause. And you cannot know the cause if you don't have an overview how things function. So I asked him what he has else apart from his infection of the parotid gland. And he told me that he has on his toe, on his right and left toe, an ingrown nail. Now, what would you suspect? Which nail would be more ingrown and which would be less ingrown? So, starting with the left side, which would be more ingrown? The right one. Yeah, the right one would be more ingrown, and the left thumb would be less ingrown. Now, you have this picture of this human being having two things that are how much apart from each other? The toe to the parotid, that's almost maximum of distance. Would you ever suspect they have any connection? You see, for this, he comes to the ENT. Because the ENT doesn't ask for toes and for nails. And even if he said it, my grandmother was once at the ENT doctor, because she has also a tumor in her parotid. And like grandmothers are, she said to the doctor, well, doctor, I don't have only this, but my knee is hurting. And then the doctor says, well, that's not my field. You have to go to another doctor to see that. And so we are put in fields and we don't see the whole human being. But would you, as a maybe non-professional, think that there is some similarities or some connection between this toe and this parotid? Would you? I mean, it's obvious. And for me, it was a beautiful picture, actually. I like this kind of cases because it shows that there is a connection between your parotid. And where is the connection? So the connection starts from their cortex, the right one and the left one. So where does the disease start? Who gives the command for the swelling of the parotid? And who gives the command for the nail to grow in? So can that grow by itself in, or can that swell by itself? So what did we learn from the law? It needs an energy. This never can swell anything without being an energy there that does the thing. Your nail can never grow in if there is not a command that he should grow in. It's just not possible. Because there is no power that something should happen in your body or everywhere where there is no power to make it. And this is an example where you can see that we need to have a clear overview of the human being. Now, this man was 20 years old. And at that time, as he was in my practice, I hadn't been so far, I hope, like I am today, to be more tactful, to be more conscious that he might not understand me. See, I made a mistake with him. I said to him, can you imagine that your diseases are from your thoughts? How would you have reacted? This doctor doesn't know what he says. So I would totally overwhelm him. I would put him in a situation he has nothing to relay his mind on with that information. And so he said no. And probably most of my patients would have said no. Even maybe some, if you have this infection for 3 months, for 5 years, and it comes and goes, then having a certain age, you might think, okay, maybe doctor, there must be something there. But so I learned my lesson that I cannot tell my patient what he sometimes wants to know because he would not be able to understand me. He would not be able to understand me because he has no concept how he works. Has he? I had once an 18 years old, I did the same mistake. He had a pain in his right sinuses, like a neuralgia, yes, and that is for 3 months he had this pain, and I asked him about his mental situation, and then he said, well, it's not related to any stress. And then, of course, I was a little bit challenged, and I said, how much did you try to figure out how the human being functions? How much literature did you read about the human being? What was his answer? None. So I said, if you never read, how can you know it doesn't come from your thoughts? How can you even think it is not possible to come from your thoughts if you never occupied your mind with the way the human being functions? So people just give forward what they somewhere have catched on, they learned, but they have never thought it by themselves, is it true or not? So the most important, and what I wanted to show to you, is that this disease comes from an input. And this input is only possible to be a thought. It's just nothing else possible to do that. Nothing else. Because by law, the function must be precise. It's only the mind, which sits up here at the cortex, that can do punctual things. All other things, the food, all the other aspects, do not complain to say, well, it's food. Change your food and it will heal. It's not possible because food goes everywhere in the body in the same amount everywhere. Yes, food might be a cofactor, but it's not the cause. I give you another example with goat. Goat, yeah? Is that? Gout. Now, you get the gout in the right thumb, okay? Toe, right toe, yeah, sorry, right toe. And the doctor takes some blood sample, yeah? And he finds that your uric acid is higher than it should be, uric acid, yeah? So, now what is he doing? He reduced the uric acid and your pain goes away. Now, did you solve your problem? Is the uric acid the cause for your pain? Why not? Because it goes away when you reduce it. How is the uric acid in your joints, in every joint? Is the same amount? It is distributed to the body in the same amount in every joint. You have multiple joints. The uric acid is everywhere the same. Why does it only in the right side of your toe make the pain reaction? Yes? So you see, there is a metabolism going on that we need to understand. It's not enough to take out the cofactor for the pain. The uric acid is only the cofactor, but it's not the main factor. You take those pills or you change your diet, you get a lower uric acid, but you never change the cause of your gout. Okay, I have always problem with this word. You don't change because you have only by taking away the cofactor did something, but your body will sometimes come out with another thing in another place that is not dependent on uric acid, and then you have the same problem. So what I want to teach you is that what is most important for me to understand the function of the human being, to know who is capable to do something and who is not capable to do something. And it's only the mind that conducts the whole human metabolism. And the thoughts, they conduct everything. You know how your bone work is just dependent on how you think. Without the mind, without the spirit, we saw there is no life. Without thoughts, there is no electrical energy. And that is what feeds the body in the first time. And secondary is the food that you eat and the oxygen that you take, and the water that you drink, the sleep that you sleep. But there are two powers, and we need to understand which power can do what. And we have one big problem in medicine. We never learned something about the existence of a spirit, did we? Those who have done medicine? Or nurses, have nurses ever learned that there is a spirit in man that conducts the metabolism? Have you ever learned that? No. Because from the theories that we have in science, we view the human being like being only biology. That is, the thoughts emerge from something that cannot take a decision. But it makes something that can take a decision. And that what it makes can take a decision against itself. Is that logic? My mind can take a decision not to eat. So it destroys the cell. So the cell makes me the mind that I, with my mind, take the decision not to eat. Is that somehow normal thinking? For me, it is not. So we cannot explain the human being without a spirit, without a mind. And I showed you yesterday that by law, nothing can move itself. Food cannot move us. Water, by drinking it, water can move us from outside, yes. But that we can move, that I can move from one part to the other, I need energy for that. And that energy comes from the command of my spirit to move. If not, I would never be able to move, because my cell, my body, cannot move itself. When the spirit is separated from the body, you don't move anymore, are you? No one moves. Yes? Because there is no power to move. So, since the spirit is the most important organ, so I call it, in the human being, and since he conducts the whole machinery of the human being. Yes, there is a nice explanation of the human structure in one of the writers. Her name is Ellen G. White, and she says that the mind connects man to the spiritual world, and the mind conducts the human machinery through the nerves, and all the organs of the human being are the servants of the mind. And that's very logic, because my eye can never move if not my mind moves it. My lips can never move if not my mind moves it. So the most important organ then we should know is the mind, and how it works together with the cortex. And since about 90% of the diseases come from our thoughts, and can only come from our thoughts, we need to know what is the impact of the thought on my body. Because if the thought is the cause, who can heal? The problem is that you are the only one that can do something about it. Your doctor cannot help you. He cannot say to you, just take some pill. Most patients would like that. Take something, and even it's a natural remedy, but do that and then you get healthy. We need to put everything in a balance. There is a need for natural remedies, but at the same time, I can treat the parasites and these nails with natural remedy, but that's not enough. I need to take the input from the mind that makes the disease. So we need to go on both ways. First, first the order that I showed, the order on that other whiteboard. We need to find the cause. We need to take away the cause, and then we adapt the natural remedies to help nature to recover from the problem. But if it's a thought problem that makes us sick in the primary way, then I need to be aware of it, because I do it to myself personally without knowing it. People are sick because they make themselves sick, unaware of it. Imagine you make yourself sick because you don't know. You get the tumor somewhere and you go to the surgeon, he takes it out, and then the wound does not heal, and then the surgeon is guilty because the wound does not heal, and then you get upset, and then you go to court, and how is that working? Is that satisfactory? Is that a satisfaction? So this is why my main desire to help you to understand that I cannot convince you except I convince you with the law. By law, there is never a human being can function without a law. And disease is a dysfunction that must be a breaking of the law. It must not be your own breaking, but if it is in your thoughts, whose breaking is it? And it's your breaking. You can have diseases that you don't do it by your own breaking of the law, but disease is always a breaking of the law, because the law does not change. Every function needs energy. So nothing can function without energy. And so we went through that. We saw that that's the basic law in the universe, that law from cause to effect. And that comes because all energy comes from outside. So if I can move, that energy cannot come from my cell. The cell are moving, but the energy does not come from there. And then I think I wrote some other laws here. We went through the our needs of the cell, and we saw that by law, the cell can do nothing from itself. Yes, there is no power in nothing from itself, so the cell cannot choose its needs. If you don't give the cell what it needs, it is in dysfunction, and if it goes out of that tolerance, then it is going to die. And we saw that by law, the cell cannot damage itself. And now there is a fourth thing that I would like to add here. It's or fifth, whatever the point is. It's the way how something functions is determined. The way of functioning is the same determined like the needs you need to function. So the way of functioning, whatever the point is, the way something functions is determined by law. And this is where we entered into the heart of man. That is, we want to see how the heart of man is functioning, how the input of the spirit to the body is working. That's the heart of man. And we saw those Bible quotes that out of the heart are the issues of life. Everything a human being decides, he decides in his heart. There is no other way you can take a decision. You don't use your thumb or your toe or whatever to take a decision. All decisions, good or evil, you can do only in one place. Only in one place, and that is called the heart, or we can call it the conscious and subconscious, however we want to call it. It is a structure that is hierarchical. I want to show it once again. We have body and we have mind, and since the body is the servant of the mind, there must be one place from where the mind conducts the whole body. Like a pilot sitting in an airplane, where does the pilot move from one wing to the other, or no, what is he doing? He just stays there where all the connections come together. And so he's there, and when a light goes on there, or when he needs to turn right or left, the pilot is the one that does the moving, and the plane must move because he gives the command. The same way is our human being. So the heart is the cockpit. It's the place where the spirit, he does not need to be in your toe. He just needs to be at the center where your toe is managed. So he turns on the right side of your cortex, your left toe, and he just needs to switch a little bit, and then it starts in growing. Understand? Must do it, because he is at a command. So this is why the spirit or the mind of man is the most important, to just manage the human being in the correct way. So would you trust a pilot who is drunk? No? You wouldn't trust, so you wouldn't go into that airplane, even though it would be the nicest and the newest one, because it's dependent on the pilot. And so I try to talk to you as to the pilots, because we pilot our life. We need, as humans, to be piloting our life as at an age, of course, where we are capable to do that, but we need to do it. So that's why we need to know, how do I take my decision and how do I function in my heart? Because from here, the whole chain of reaction starts. See, when you took your decision, we saw it on the electrical wave. You take the decision, what happens with the wave? Can you stop it? When you have taken the decision, the electrical potential goes exactly to the point where the decision is taken. Except the nerve is here cut off, then of course it goes only until that place. But when your decision is done, your body needs to obey and react. So this is where it gets a little bit now, not complex, but we have to think a little bit. And we are not maybe used to think in these two terms. So what does the spirit do and what does the body do? But we have to, if we want to know ourselves and how we function. So in my studies, trying to find out why human beings are getting sick from the mind, it's not enough to know that the mind makes sick. You need to know also the process. You need to know, how does it happen? And you might remember that I put all my patients in different groups. Yeah, tinnitus is one of those major problems that people have in my field. And then, of course, dizziness and all other things that comes in the ENT field. And I put them in the groups because I was thinking the cause of their diseases is a different one. And so I thought, like everyone thinks, that there are different causes for different diseases. And there might be in some of them. But those that come from the mind, I needed to realize they all have the root only in one thought. So it was only the thought of loss that I discovered was the problem of the human being. And then going deeper into my observation on the patient, I came to understand it's not loss, because we need loss as a balance. We need to avoid loss, and we need to gain winning. That's how we are made to function. And we all function the same. There is no human that can say, well, I can go towards loss. It's just not possible. No one can do himself loss, except he's, how can I say, betrayed to think that a loss is a gain, and then he can do himself loss. Yeah, but obviously you can never go into a business and say, look, my product is the worst, but it's the most expensive. Please come and buy it. Would you do it? No, it's against all public relation to try to make someone come and buy your things, and you just present them. They're not really good. It's just not possible. Our motivation is here. We need to gain and we need to avoid loss. And what makes us sick is one thing. It's personal loss. And I can prove to you in any case and in your own case of sickness, if I find it that you think a personal loss, then that personal loss does terrible results in your own body. It doesn't matter where, but it shows up. Because that's the input that the body cannot take. But it's also the spiritual insight that you can never lose. The spirit cannot lose, so he wants to avoid it. But especially when the spirit thinks he lost something personal, then the body is really put under pressure and you get into trouble. Can we do the questions later, or is just for... Exactly. I come to that. I will explain that, but there was another question? Or no? Okay. Maybe we go a little bit in our case study that we started. Yes? So I have here this 29-year-old lady, and she has for 2 years ear canal infections that come and go. She has for 3 years pain in her mandibular joints. No one can do those pain away. She has neck pain because of a disc failure on her left side and arm, and since 1 year she has acne. So some, how you call it? Pupils? Pimples, okay, I don't know this word, okay, that's fine. You have them on your face or on your, they can be everywhere, but usually face and back, skin. Now, what am I doing with this lady? She came the first time to me. She told me her story. She told me her physical story. And I immediately know what's her problem. What is it? What must make her sick? There must be major or low. Major personal loss or not major? Yeah? So she must have a major personal loss that's in her mind and really makes the body sick. So I invite her for consult, and since she had this history of years going to different doctors, her husband encouraged her to come, because you see, you go to the ENT doctor and he asks you to come to consult. He says, are you a psychologist? You know, people say, well, I have my psychologist. I go to him. I say, well, yes. You can go, but some people already have 4 years of psychology and therapy, and the body is still not working better. And so I say, why not listen to a second opinion? I'm not doing with you any psychological sessions. I don't do therapy. I just give explanations. That's my job as a doctor, to show you how to drive your car. And if you drive it correctly, no bumps. But if you go off-road, you might get a problem. So my job is to explain to you how you function and where's the problem. Not to do therapy. I'm not a therapist in the first row. But giving the counsel, of course, the therapy emerges from that. People know the cause, then you know how to remove the cause. Yeah? Now this lady came, and she had a very touching story. That's why I didn't forget her. Some stories are really touching, some others not, depends. And I always start with the main relationship that a human has. What's that main relationship? Who is it? Who from the parents? It's always mother. Mother is the most important relationship that the human being has. There is no other. You can discuss about that, but you cannot change it. That's it. Yeah, mother plays the major role in every human being life. So, at least for a while, and sometimes for the whole life. However, I start with mother, and I say, Mother, how old is she? Is she alive? Is she sick? And then she tells me, that's my problem. My mother died 9 years ago. She was killed by two 17-year-old boys who entered the place where she was working to rob some money out of the cashier. And by that interaction, she was killed. Now, isn't that a big stress? Is it? It is. So, how you solve it? I asked her a question, and I would ask you. And I believe you all answer the same question. You answer the same, everyone. There are questions you put, all people answer the same. You know that? Doesn't matter who it is. So let's make the test. I asked her, how often does she think on her mother? What was the answer? Every day. Every day. Now it's 9 years gone. You see, for 4 years, there might be emotional things there, crying. She says every morning she remembers her mother. Now, would you ever suspect that this remembrance make you sick? Why is she remembering mother? Because mother is in her heart a gain or a loss? Personal? It's a personal loss. But I was interested in her whole story because there are two parts in her body that are affected. So I asked her if she has guilt feelings or guilt thoughts because her mother died. And she said yes. If I would have pressed my mother more to stop working that job, she might have listened to me and would have stopped the job, and then she would be still alive. That's how the mind works. And then I said, how do you relate to the two murderers? Well, the two murderers, it's 9 years now. The one got 9 years and the other one 4 years. Is just ready to be released. But they were 17. They went with those money to a place to just play around. So was not a big deal. She didn't really have any problems with the murders. And then I asked her about her father. Now with father she had a problem. A major one? A major one. She said, if my father would have not been such a person to go after other women and bringing home at the age when she was 5 his girlfriend in the same house. And mother needed to move out because of the other girlfriend. Then mother would have never needed to go to work. She had never needed to take that job that was dangerous to in that era, and she would be still alive. To whom did she give the main guilt? No. You don't give yourself the main guilt usually. You must find some other person to give the main guilt. If you are guilty, yes, but usually you're just a little bit guilty. But there is always, or almost always, I think so, someone who is more guilty than yourself. Now she has a problem with her father. And 1 year before she came to see me, she went to see her father in another country because she didn't come from Germany. And she said, I had very low expectation that my father should see his guilt from his way of conducting, of betraying mother, going with another woman. But I was totally disappointed. Not even the least recognition that he had some part in how things went. So now she has 2 heavy burdens, 2 heavy losses. What can you lose more than your parents? There have been done some studies, even though I'm not into studies because they're statistics. But there is an interesting observation in one of these studies done by a big insurance company in America that says what is impacting the human mind most? Do you think it's sexual abuse? It's not sexual abuse. So what was that which impacted in this study the human mind most? It was when mother left you. So the leaving of the mother, not the death of the mother first, but if mother left you, that was the most strange thing to the human mind. And then the sexual abuse and the other things, they came in a lower degree of problems that the human has. And it fits exactly to the way we are. Mother is. And if mother is the first love source. Mother, we will talk more about mother later. Mother is most important in conceiving and in bringing up that child. That's why mother must be in a certain way in all expectations of the human being. You have no other person you expect more than from your mother. It is like that. There's no other person that you in a certain age maybe and even later you expect more than from your mother. And so she has 2 problems. Who can she not love? She cannot love the father, and she misses mother. Why does she miss mother? What kind of nurture does she need from her mother? Does she need to iron her? No. So she needs her mother for whom? For herself. Because she needs to love her mother or to be loved from her mother? She needs mother's love because she thinks mother's love is that brings her the joy. And she was the first lady I asked this question. I said, if you could, would you raise your mother from the death? It's a strange question sometimes. Oh, if you could, would you raise your mother from the death? What was her answer? Without even thinking a minute, or she just said immediately, yes. Is it good that she cannot raise her mother? I think it's very good that she cannot raise her mother from the death. Even though it sounds hard, doesn't sound very pitiful. But thank God, we cannot rule over any life. We must accept that someone else rules life. We have no capacity to rule over others' life, not even over our death. And it should be, and it is good that we are not able to raise our loved ones. Because how would the world show up if we could do that? Yes? Why would she raise her mother? For her mother's sake or for her own sake? Her own sake. So she would just do it out of what? Out of her own selfishness for herself. But should love raise someone for himself or for the other? Yes, so love does not have the interest for yourself in all our definitions. But this eyesight in our human heart just show us that we do the thing because we are dependent on the love of others. So, is this lady in bondage or is she free? Would you say that she has a free will? We were talking last night with a few young people about the free will. That's an interesting topic, is it? Most people think they are free. But is this lady free? Can she stop thinking those thoughts? Can she stop thinking those thoughts, or can she not stop? I would like to prove you that she cannot. If she could, she would. Because she's not happy with those thoughts. But the problem is, in this area where we have our love sources, where we want them to give us love, we are in total bondage, and this bondage can only show us our physical need. If you have something that you pressure, and someone is taking that away, doesn't matter what it is, your thoughts are not free anymore. It's just an illusion that you are free until you get into the problem. Because you need, when you lose something personal, one, the spirit cannot lose, so it must be remembered. How can I get out? The body reacts from the thought of loss with bad feelings, with stopping certain things in your body to function well, because the input is wrong. So you have two enemies. In your mind, you want to get out of the problem because you need love, and your body now is hurt because you just hurt him like an axe goes into the wood because of your loss that you experience, that you think is personal. If a person could do it by himself, he would do it. We would be healthy, you know that? If we could do that. I want to prove you that in this relationship, where we expecting from the inner way of our heart that someone should love us, bondage, how can you say bondage, or to be a prisoner? Is there another? a slave. Yeah, slave is better. Slave. Is a slave free? No. So the slavery, the definition of slavery that I give, and you might follow, is to be dependent on love from the deeds and existence of others. That's slavery. You know why slavery? Because love is something that you cannot choose not have it. You need it. There's all in your life you search for is love. You cannot choose to say, I can live without love. There is no choice in that. There is no choice if you want to live and breathe. There is no choice in that. You need to breathe. You need oxygen. So the main need of human being is love. And if that is satisfied by the deeds or the existence of another person, you are in bondage of that person. Are you? You have no freedom. Everything might be well. I tell you a story. Here, when you give to receive, you might go for a very long, well, very good. I have a patient that is 40 years he was married, or 50, and his wife passed away. And I saw him 10 years after his wife passed away. And he said to me, and he had severe diseases also in my area, but especially he has very bad arthritis, and the joints were deviated in the last years. And so I asked him about his story. And he said to me, my wife died 10 years ago, and I sleep with her picture in my bed. And I dream from her every night. And every night I wake up upset because she's not there. So you see, for 50 years, he was healthy as long as his love source was there. There was a receiving and a giving, and everything went well. But now his love source died, passed away. And he was destroying himself unconsciously because of what need? It was the need of love. The need of love. I have cases where people say to me, my grandmother, after grandfather died, she just killed herself. And they agree to it because that was their purpose in life. It was that relationship. People come to me and say, my son is everything to me. Is that freedom? When to that son something happens, who is going to suffer and to be very sick and finally die of terrible sickness made by unknowing the cause of disease? So the story of the free will is a story. Under the circumstances of this eyesight, you are always doing things only according what the other is doing to you. If you give something and you receive it back and they don't not give it to you, you're fine. You think everything is fine and you're free. But there comes a point in every human life where he comes to the point that someone else makes him a personal loss. And then you are in trouble. Then you see how free you really are. I tell you, you cannot live without a love source. Your love source and the love source of every human being is his destiny. Because love is the most important in the human. And if you lose that, you lost your life, you lost your purpose in life. This is where this is so important to understand. Our own self, our own mind has two major wrong thoughts about itself. I think I have. That means I can possess. I want to prove you that the personal loss is mathematically not possible in human being. That's not possible. It's just an imagination of our mind. So, I think I possess something. Can a human being ever possess anything? To call that its own? Yes or no? How can we prove it? How can we prove it? So, let's say the human being is born here. How much does he bring to the earth? No. And when he dies, how much does he take with him? So, how much does he have between birth and death? No, it's not right clear that. You see, I want to prove you that this is zero, okay? Is a good wife a plus? Okay. Is a good husband a plus? Yes. Is a child a plus? Is a car a plus? A house? A dog? Whatever it is. It's pluses. But tell me, if all the pluses go away, how much did you lose? You just go to the same place where you started. You never can get into minus. Because you start with zero. If you start with zero, below zero you can never get. But you see, the human mind thinks he starts with plus. That's why he thinks he comes into zero. I want to ask you a question. We saw that a good husband or a good spouse is a plus. Is a bad husband or a bad spouse a minus? Yes or no? No. It's just a zero. You don't have the benefit. Can you understand that? Hard to understand? I think it's challenging. But that's it. That's mathematics. It's not possible. We have one example in the Bible as most helping us to understand what it means to have a changed heart. This man was seen by God as being perfect. And the devil said, well, he's just perfect because you don't allow me to tempt him. Did he? You know the story? It's Job. Those who know Bible, read this, the story of Job. It's one of the most interesting story about loss and gain, because it's all about that in that story. And so God says, I will prove to you that the heart of my man is perfect. And there's no one that in the land that follows me and his heart is with me like Job's heart. And so he said, you can do with him what you want, expect you cannot touch his his own body. Yeah? So what does the devil do? He unmasks his major weapon. What is his major weapon? To make you lost. Yes? And Job was a rich man or not a rich man? He had 10 children. 7 boys, 3 girls. He had thousands of camels and sheep and goats, whatever he had. And the devil was so smart to let one servant always alive. For what purpose? To tell Job, because if Job doesn't know what happens, how can he get into a personal loss? So in 12 hours, and it might be every hour that a servant came, and he might have waited with the sons, the last one, or whatever it was. And after these 12 hours, everything that Job had as in his possession, except his wife, the devil took away. Now, what does this man do and say in that moment? That proves that his heart is not here, that it is here, as we will see later on. Well, that's later on. What did he do? What did he say? What did he say? What was his first sentence? No, what's the first sentence? You see, we sometimes read very superficial. What was his first sentence? You read it at the end of the chapter 1 of Job. He says, naked I came out of my mother's womb, and naked I go. God has given, God has taken, the name of the Lord shall be praised. He tears his clothes because of loss. But Job never entered into personal loss. You can mourn for loss if it's not personal. And you can tear and you can be, how can I say, indignated for what had happened. But if you take it personal, Job would have become very sick. But he did not become sick. And then the devil said, well, you won the first time. No, God won. Did he prove to Job that he was free? Was Job free in his mind? Yes, he was. He did not enter into that. He never mentions in those 40 chapters and something the loss of his children. Never once. Never once. The only argument that he has is with his friends. They do not understand that he is guiltless. And you want to show them that he's guiltless. Oh, they say, no, you have a problem. So, now the devil says to God, let me take a little bit of his life, that means of make him sick. Because everything a human has, he will give for his life. And God says, well, I will prove to you that Job is not having nothing to possess, but he will never give me up as source of life. He will never turn away from me, even though I make him sick. And Job believed that God made him sick, you know that. He even believed that he took all the possessions, that God gave, God took. And that's the right thinking. We should think like that. So he came into the disease, and then that Bible verse come in Job 15, or is it? You know where the quote exactly? But if he slay me, I still going to trust him. So he could not, the devil could by no means make this man to take off his will from God. You know when people take off their will from God, even though they're Christians? When something wrong happens. When they are mourning about their death. Especially when it's not in time. You have an old mother and she dies, that might be okay. But you have a small child or whatever happens, an accident, something that is not in time. You know with whom you have your first argument? With God. Your first enemy is God. Because you think, oh, he should have avoided that. Should he? So, we must understand that God is not a policeman. One of our foster children has a fight with God because he said, you did not protect my mother in her childhood that she should be abused from her father sexually. Because could God do that? Could he do it? Why didn't he do it? So you see, we have some ideas about God. I believe that God gave the parents a responsibility. Does he take that away? If you want to feed your child something wrong, does God stop you? If you want to beat your child, does he stop you? Why does he not stop you? Because he, not a free will, free choice, responsibility. The responsibility God gave you, he doesn't take away from you. If you're a mother and you want to cut your child in pieces and put it in the fridge, he allows it to you. Because it's what he gave and entrusted to you, and he will not change the way he made things. Yes, he could intervene by supernatural power, but I think that God wants to teach us something about himself. And we need to know our responsibility and not put that on God what is not his. If he gave you a child, he didn't give it to you to take it away when you abuse it. He didn't give it the child to you to cut your hand down, to abuse it. He gave it to you and he trusted to you that you will raise it according to his will, because it is his. So we need to sometimes to think about God and know, not only sometimes, but we need to know his character. He does not give me a responsibility and then takes it away just by, chance. Yes, there are situations where he says, you didn't fulfill your responsibility, now I have to give the child to another parent. He does that. He gave us 6 children because the parents left them. And it was our greatest gift, but also our greatest responsibility. And we were making the same mistakes that their former parents did. Thank God there came a time that he changed that. And I'm still in that changing process. And so I could win the heart of my children back because not repeating the same mistakes that their first parents did. So you see, responsibility is there. And God gives it to us. And we must understand that he is not playing games. He's not playing games. He stays like he is. He does not change. So it's important to us to understand there are 2 major problems in our heart, in our mind. That is, that we can possess anything. I want to challenge you. Whose car is your car? Pardon? Is it? It's the Lord's. So, to whom are you responsible how you use your car? Okay. So one day your Lord will bring an account to you and say, I gave you a car, John, or however your name is. Let's see, how many people did you bring with this car to serve them? Would he? Why can he do that? Why can ever God take us responsible for what we do? Why can He do that? Because it's His possession. We are His possession. So that's why God will take us in account. What did you do with your body? What did you do with your mind? What did you do with your car, your computer, whatever you had? Did it serve the purpose I gave it to you or not? Because it is His. Don't think if it would be ours, then I could say, well, Lord, you gave it to me, it's mine. I did what I wanted. Always says, no, that's a mistake of your mind. You do not possess anything. Everything that I gave to you, I gave it to use it, we will see, for the purpose of service. To whom? To others. Because serving God is to serve our neighbors. Is that nice that we have our clothes? That we need to dress how? So that we represent God. You see, because our body is not ours, Jesus says in His most important sermon, or all what He said is most important, but He says there in Matthew 5, He says, do not resist evil. So when I give you a, how you call this? Slap on your left or right cheek, then what do? For which purpose? Pardon? So, why can God say me that? Because whose body is beaten? It's His body. So, if I follow the command, He knows best what will do me good. Easy or not? Oh no. Oh no. The moment you get that, the other one has it back. Free? No. In bondage. But if you can allow it, you're free. Because you know He's doing God's body something. And there was a man in the Bible who understood the message most perfectly. That was Paul. And he said, I am delighted to suffer for Christ. To add those suffering in the body that is still missing. This man, for human beings, was not really normal, was he? He didn't do suffering to himself. But when he was suffering and he was just recovering from the worst beating he ever had in his life. He had 5 times the worst beatings. 49 or 39 beats. The 40th would kill you. And he was beaten like that, I think, 5 times. 3 or 5, I'm not sure yet. I think 5 times. 5 times he was beaten with 39 stripes, and you give the 40th, the victim is death. So they went with him at the border of death. And he's in Philippi. Just after God called him, go into Macedonia because there is a big work. And the first thing he comes to Macedonia, he gets beaten. Almost to death. Together with his friend Silas. And when they recover from their unconsciousness, they found themselves in the prison in those blocks, where it's not so comfortable. Stocks, yeah? And what do? Is that normal? I tell you, that's freedom. They could sing because their beating was personal, not personal. Not personal. They were even proud to do it for Christ's sake. But that singing, how many people saved that singing? Thousands. Because the first one was the man in the jail, the jail supervisor, and his whole family. And what do you think, how many did he bring to Christ? I believe this story feeds thousands of people in their need to not get into self-pity, but say, the Lord did it, so I want to praise Him even in that. But for that, you need to have supernatural power or your own power. You need supernatural power for that. I hope to realize that. So God can say to you, let your slap on the right cheek happen, and even give the other one if it's needed, because that is no personal loss. And it says, if someone takes your coat, what do you give? Give him also your gloves. How is it? You give him your coat. You ask for your shirt, you give him your coat, okay? So, why? Why should I not resist the one who takes away my coat? Because it's not mine. And God says, give it, and give him also the shirt if he needs it. Don't stop the robbery to take your possession. Freedom? I think yes. And then it says, someone forces you to go a mile. Don't be so. Go 2. And you will be free. You know, Paul writes one of the most challenges epistle to slaves, and Peter the same. And they do not say, go against the slave master. What do they say? Submit to your slave master like unto God. For our mind today is that stupidity. It doesn't make sense. But for life it makes. Because if you do not resist evil, you do not make yourself sick. You are a free person. Because freedom is in the mind. There is freedom found. So, personal loss is not existence from the perspective of possession. I hope you get that. Because it will free you from many things. After my conversion 10 years ago, the Lord brought me into 3 major courts conflicts. And in all, I considered myself not guilty. Only in one, I was not sure. And I was even thinking that's right. But that I won in the first thing, 0 loss. But the other ones, the other 2, I fighted for my rights. I said to the judge, penny for penny, we are not agreeing to any sum, because judge, at least in Germany, they come and say, let's do a deal. Half of half, and so you come along, you have some benefit, the other has some benefits, and don't have many costs here in the court. And I said, no, with me not. I'm a righteous person. There must be righteousness done. And God took about one court went 4 years. And I thought it would just go one time. I got nervous. I fight it against the judge. I wrote him Bible verses because, it's very smart to do that, no? And make the judge your friend. Are you making your judge your friend when you want to teach him? Not really nice. But I learned a lesson. I did not know how strong I was that I want to have righteousness. And in 4 years, the Lord taught me a very interesting lesson. And I said, Lord, whenever I come again into the same situation, I want to let the other do me wrong. Because I win when I let it go. And I'm not afraid of any court session in future because I know I win. Because I will say my opinion. I will say what is right. But I will respect the judge. I will say, you judge, like you judge, it's okay. I surrender to your judgment. Is that not making friend with the judge? And when you are a friend with the judge, you have the better chances in your life. But I learned a lot about myself and how in bondage I was. I tell you, after each session, every quarter year, I go out in nature to talk with God every morning. And every time after the session for 3-4 days, I was so unhappy because the judge finds something to just punish me or to just tell me, oh, look, you're not so righteous like you think. He just had things that went straight to my pride. And I was so terribly in a danger and in problem. So it took me 3 to 4 days to recover until I learned to give the judgment up. I said, Lord, it's your money. If you want me to pay for unrighteous things, some things, I am willing to pay it because it's not mine, it's yours. So it's up to you. Isn't that nice? Because I didn't do my purpose to spend God's money for something that is not good. But if a judge forces me to take out of God's money, which are all money are God's, are they? Yes? All money are God's. Doesn't matter if they're tithes or whatever, they're all God's. So if God says, now you need to give to your enemy 10,000 euro because I want to do that, I say, okay, I'm just a servant. I do it. It's your money, not mine. And if I don't have it, you might provide it. Wouldn't that be a nice way to live? I think so. It would get us out of our need to win or to gain by ruling over others. So I have one more thought with you that we need to talk, and that is, can I produce something? Can my spirit be a creative? Is he creative? Or can he do something? Or, can he produce something? Or can he only work with something? That's the question. When you love someone, are you loving with your own love or with the love of another? What do you exercise? Which love do you use when you love? Your own that you produce, or you are not producing that love that you love with, and you just take it from somewhere else? So that's more difficult than the possession to explain. But I hope even to that you will understand. And then we come for the solution here. And at the end I will speak about love. What is real love? What the body needs. Not what we imagine. But what the body needs. What's real love? And you will see your mind and your spirit likes real love. Because we are all made for real love. Not for a fake. Not for something that doesn't work always. We must be capable to exercise love all the time. The problem is just, is it my love or not? So I hope you have a good break, and I'm waiting for questions after the next session. The evening is open, so we might get some about it.